been told that if you just believe hard enough, the universe will listen. That if you repeat your affirmations, if you visualize with precision, if you raise your vibration high enough, eventually, what you want will come. And maybe you've tried. Maybe you've sat with candles, journaled your dreams, meditated until your mind went blank, but nothing happened. Or worse, things got heavier. You questioned yourself. You questioned the process. You wondered if you were broken, or if this whole thing was just a lie dressed up as hope. Let me tell you something that no one says out loud. Most people fail at manifestation not because they don't want it enough, or because they didn't try hard enough, but because they're sending the wrong signal. Not mentally, energetically, emotionally, subconsciously. They're saying yes with their words, while their body is locked in no. And the universe, it's not listening to the words. It's listening to the frequency behind them, and that frequency is rarely in tune. Manifestation isn't magic, it's mechanics, not the mechanical kind, but the living, breathing, pulsing rhythm of coherence. Thought, emotion, action, nervous system, all humming the same song. Not perfectly, not all the time, but long enough to form a clear signal. Most people never get there because they're too busy trying, too busy doing, too busy gripping. They are efforting their way into resistance. And resistance, no matter how well disguised, blocks the very thing they're trying to receive. This is the truth that no book, no video, no coach ever fully explains. The harder you try to force reality, the louder your frequency of lack becomes. The more you chase the outcome, the more the field hears the message, I don't have it, I'm not enough, I need this to be whole. That message is not bad, it's not shameful, it's just incoherent, it's scrambled. And the quantum field, this beautifully precise mirror of your inner world, can only reflect back what you are. Not what you say, not what you pretend to feel, but what you live, breathe, and hold inside your nervous system, moment by moment by moment. So if you've been doing everything right and still feel stuck, you're not alone. You're not wrong. You're not broken. You're just out of sync. But here's the good news. Real alignment doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require effort. It requires coherence. And coherence begins not when you finally fix yourself, but when you finally soften into being. That's the one thing that actually works. And almost nobody does it. But after today, you will. Most people are manifesting from tension, not truth. They're not broadcasting the frequency of the life they want. They're transmitting static, noise, confusion. They think they're aligned because they're saying the right things. They think they're connected because they're doing the practices. But deep beneath the surface, their body tells a different story. Their breath is shallow. Their stomach is tight. Their mind is cycling through doubt. And the quantum field, this sensitive mirror of your inner reality, picks up on that contradiction instantly. It responds not to your desire, but to your dominant signal. And the dominant signal is rarely conscious. It's energetic, it's emotional, it's biological. This is why you can speak abundance but vibrate fear. You can write down goals, create vision boards, meditate every morning, and still feel like nothing is changing. Because your nervous system is still locked in survival, because your subconscious still believes that the world is unsafe, because your emotional body hasn't yet felt what it means to have. It only knows how to want. So the message you're sending is clear. I am trying, I am waiting, I am chasing. And the field gives you more of that state. More waiting, more trying, more chasing. It's not because you're being punished. It's because the quantum field doesn't judge. It simply reflects. And most people are reflecting incoherence. They're split. One part wants to leap, the other part is frozen in fear. One part dreams of love, the other part fears being seen. One part imagines success, the other part fears losing it. This tug of war creates a fog in the field. And in that fog, manifestation fails. Not because the method is wrong, but because the signal is mixed. When the signal is mixed, the response is mixed. You might see glimpses, you might feel close, but it never stabilizes. You find yourself in cycles, almost love, almost abundance, almost clarity. but never quite enough to feel safe. And that's because the dominant vibration isn't wholeness, it's lack. It's still seeking, still searching, still proving. So before you add another ritual, another affirmation, another layer of pressure, ask yourself this: what signal am I actually sending? Not with my words, but with my being. Because until your state changes, your timeline won't. The field is waiting for coherence, not effort, not performance, just truth, embodied. Trying harder is the illusion that keeps you stuck. Most people believe that if they just do more, they'll break through. More affirmations, more visualizations, more hours meditating, more control over their thoughts, their environment, their emotions. But in the quantum field, effort doesn't equal power. In fact, effort often amplifies resistance, because behind the effort, there's almost always a hidden frequency of desperation. The underlying message becomes, I don't trust that it's coming. I don't trust that I'm ready. I don't trust that I'm enough. This creates an emotional loop that feeds itself. You try to manifest from lack, and the lack grows. You try to feel abundant, but your body feels tight. You try to force positive emotion, and that very force keeps you disconnected from your natural state. Control is not alignment. Control is contraction, and contraction is the opposite of receiving. Most people don't realize they're addicted to control. They think they're practicing discipline. They think they're manifesting with intention, but what they're actually doing is gripping, micromanaging, fixating, and that energy, even if dressed in spiritual clothing, is still fear. Fear of failure, fear of surrender, fear of stillness, because stillness requires trust, and trust is the very thing control tries to replace. So what happens? You start looking for signs everywhere. You start chasing synchronicities. You begin scripting obsessively. You declare that you are love, but you scroll through your messages waiting for someone to prove it. You declare that you are wealthy, but check your bank account 10 times a day hoping something changed. These micro-actions seem harmless, but energetically, they reinforce the opposite message. I don't believe it yet. I don't feel it yet. I don't trust it yet. And the field? It listens. Not to your intention, but to your embodiment. It mirrors what you live, not what you recite. So trying harder only makes it worse, because the more you try, the more you signal that you are not there. And if you are not there internally, the external world cannot arrive. This is why so many people burn out on manifestation, not because they don't want it, but because they keep feeding the wrong loop. A loop that starts with pressure and ends in disappointment. The only way to step out is to stop gripping, stop measuring, stop chasing, start breathing, start being. And that shift, subtle, quiet, powerful, is the first sign of real alignment. Manifestation begins the moment you stop trying to attract and start becoming. That's the shift almost no one makes. They stay in the vibration of desire, not realization. They say they want change, but they keep living as the version of themselves who is still waiting for it. They speak about abundance while embodying urgency. They ask for love while carrying the posture of unworthiness. They pray for peace while living in a nervous system wired for chaos. The field doesn't respond to what you hope for. It responds to what you are. It listens to your internal broadcast, not your external words. And your broadcast is constant. It's in how you breathe. It's in how you walk into a room. It's in the tone of your thoughts when no one else is listening. It's in the micro decisions you make when you think they don't matter. Most people don't realize they're manifesting all the time, not by choice, but by habit. Unconscious habit, emotional habit, physiological habit. The mind says one thing, the heart says another. The body lives a completely different story. That misalignment becomes the message. And when your message is split, so is your reality. You don't manifest from effort, you manifest from frequency. That means you must become the version of you who already has it, before there's evidence, before there's validation, before there's any reason to believe it. Because that's the essence of faith. Not blind belief, but emotional embodiment. Not pretending, but practicing. You practice ease before it arrives. You breathe like someone who trusts the process. You speak like someone who already knows the outcome. You carry yourself like someone who has nothing to prove. And slowly your state begins to shift. Your body relaxes. Your nervous system uncoils. Your energy becomes stable, not reactive. That's when things start moving. Not because you're demanding results, but because you've become the signal that makes results inevitable. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about remembering who you actually are beneath the noise, beneath the patterns, beneath the conditioning that told you had to earn everything. The truth is, the field is already tuned to your desire. It's just waiting for you to stop searching and start aligning. Trying harder is the illusion that keeps you stuck. Most people believe that if they just do more, they'll break through. More affirmations, more visualizations, more hours meditating, more control over their thoughts, their environment, their emotions. But in the quantum field, effort doesn't equal power. In fact, effort often amplifies resistance, because behind the effort there's almost always a hidden frequency of desperation. The underlying message becomes, I don't trust that it's coming. I don't trust that I'm ready. I don't trust that I'm enough. This creates an emotional loop that feeds itself. You try to manifest from lack and the lack grows. You try to feel abundant, but your body feels tight. You try to force positive emotion, and that very force keeps you disconnected from your natural state. Control is not alignment. Control is contraction, and contraction is the opposite of receiving. Most people don't realize they're addicted to control. They think they're practicing discipline. They think they're manifesting with intention. But what they're actually doing is gripping, micromanaging, fixating, and that energy, even if dressed in spiritual clothing, is still fear. Fear of failure, fear of surrender, fear of stillness, because stillness requires trust. And trust is the very thing control tries to replace. So what happens? You start looking for signs everywhere. You start chasing synchronicities. You begin scripting obsessively. You declare that you are love, but you scroll through your messages waiting for someone to prove it. You declare that you are wealthy, but check your bank account 10 times a day, hoping something changed. These micro-actions seem harmless, but energetically they reinforce the opposite message. I don't believe it yet, I don't feel it yet, I don't trust it yet. And the field? It listens, not to your intention, but to your embodiment. It mirrors what you live, not what you recite. So trying harder only makes it worse, because the more you try, the more you signal that you are not there. And if you are not there, internally, the external world cannot arrive. This is why so many people burn out on manifestation, not because they don't want it, but because they keep feeding the wrong loop, a loop that starts with pressure and ends in disappointment. The only way to step out is to stop gripping, stop measuring, stop chasing, start breathing, start being. And that shift, subtle, quiet, powerful, is the first sign of real alignment. Manifestation begins the moment you stop trying to attract and start becoming. That's the shift almost no one makes. They stay in the vibration of desire, not realization. They say they want change, but they keep living as the version of themselves who is still waiting for it. They speak about abundance while embodying urgency. They ask for love while carrying the posture of unworthiness. They pray for peace while living in a nervous system wired for chaos. The field doesn't respond to what you hope for. It responds to what you are. It listens to your internal broadcast, not your external words. And your broadcast is constant. It's in how you breathe. It's in how you walk into a room. It's in the tone of your thoughts when no one else is listening. It's in the micro decisions you make when you think they don't matter. Most people don't realize they're manifesting all the time, not by choice but by habit. Unconscious habit, emotional habit, physiological habit. The mind says one thing, the heart says another. The body lives a completely different story. That misalignment becomes the message, and when your message is split, so is your reality. You don't manifest from effort, you manifest from frequency. That means you must become the version of you who already has it, before there's evidence, before there's validation, before there's any reason to believe it. Because that's the essence of faith, not blind belief, but emotional embodiment. Not pretending, but practicing. You practice ease before it arrives. You breathe like someone who trusts the process. You speak like someone who already knows the outcome. You carry yourself like someone who has nothing to prove. And slowly, your state begins to shift. Your body relaxes. your nervous system uncoils. Your energy becomes stable, not reactive. That's when things start moving. Not because you're demanding results, but because you've become the signal that makes results inevitable. This is not about pretending to be someone you're not. It's about remembering who you actually are beneath the noise, beneath the patterns, beneath the conditioning that told you you had to earn everything. The truth is, the field is already tuned to your desire. It's just waiting for you to stop searching and start aligning. You cannot manifest a new life from a body addicted to the old one. Most people are unaware that their nervous system is working against them, not because they're doing anything wrong, but because they've never learned to regulate the state they're in. You can visualize all you want, but if your body is bracing for failure, the quantum field will mirror that anticipation. You can affirm abundance, but if your system is still running on cortisol, you'll attract more urgency, more pressure, more instability. The nervous system doesn't lie. It doesn't care about what you say. It speaks the language of safety. And if the version of reality you're trying to create feels unsafe to your system, your body will block it, subtly and unconsciously. You'll self-sabotage, you'll procrastinate, you'll push away opportunities without even realizing why. Not because you're unworthy, but because your body has been trained to associate the unknown with danger. This is why real manifestation work begins with regulation, with learning how to come back to a state of internal peace, regardless of what's happening externally, with breathing before reacting, with noticing where your shoulders are tense, where your stomach contracts, where your thoughts begin spiraling. Because until your body feels safe in the now, it will never allow you to fully step into what's next. The quantum field responds to coherence, not performance. It responds to clarity, not intensity. And coherence means that your thoughts, your emotions, and your physical body are in agreement, that they're telling the same story, that your yes is a full yes, not mental, but cellular, that when you say, "I am ready," your breath doesn't hold tension, your chest doesn't shrink, your energy doesn't tremble in fear of receiving. That level of integrity creates a magnetic force in the field. It's not about being perfect, it's about being clear. It's about tuning the nervous system to the frequency of trust instead of trauma. And that begins with awareness, with presence, with choosing to stop, breathe, soften, not as a trick to get something, but as a lifestyle. Because when your nervous system stabilizes, your future stabilizes. And when your energy becomes consistent, your reality follows. The more you wait for proof, the more you delay what you already have access to. Most people don't realize that constantly seeking signs is a disguised form of fear. It's the subtle vibration of uncertainty dressed up as spiritual curiosity. You ask for confirmation not because you know it's coming, but because you secretly doubt it ever will. And the field hears that. Not your words, not your ritual, but the energy underneath. You don't need another number on a license plate. You don't need a butterfly, a feather, or a perfect quote on your feed. You don't need the universe to speak louder. You need to get quieter. Because the real signal is already in you. It's in your stillness. It's in your breath. It's in that brief moment where you feel something shift without reason, where clarity flickers like a match before your mind drowns it in logic. When you ask for signs, what you're really saying is, "I don't yet trust what I feel. I don't yet believe I'm allowed to move forward. I don't yet accept that I am the one shaping this field." That's not a failure, that's a starting point. But you must recognize it, or you'll stay trapped in a cycle of waiting, watching, and hesitating. The truth is, you are already a signal. The way you carry yourself, the way you walk into rooms, the way your energy shifts the space around you before you speak a word. You've been broadcasting something long before you ever learned to visualize, and the world has been responding to it with brutal honesty. Not because it's against you, but because it's faithful to the frequency you're sending. So what happens when you stop seeking external signs and instead become the internal signal? You stop depending on circumstances to validate your direction. You stop leaking power. You stop outsourcing your knowing. And something miraculous begins to happen. The more grounded you become in your own truth, the more aligned the external world becomes, not because it changed, but because you did. And that is the true manifestation. Not what you attract, but what you activate. Not what you receive, but what you remember. You are not here to beg for breadcrumbs from the universe. You are here to embody the vibration that bends reality around your presence. You are not the question, you are the answer. Wanting creates distance. Being creates gravity. This is the part most people misunderstand. Wanting something deeply doesn't bring it closer. It pushes it further away. Because the act of wanting carries an embedded message. I don't have it yet. I'm separate from it. I need it to feel whole. That gap between who you are and what you desire becomes the very frequency that shapes your experience. The more you chase, the more you confirm its absence. The quantum field is not responding to your hopes. It's not listening to your desperation. It's not waiting for you to earn the outcome. It's mirroring your energetic identity. And that identity isn't based on what you say. It's based on what you live, on what your nervous system believes is safe, on what your body expects to receive, on what your emotions rehearse every day without you realizing. If you're always trying to prove yourself, you're broadcasting doubt. If you're always trying to fix yourself, you're reinforcing the idea that you're broken. If you're constantly watching your reality, waiting for a shift, you're silently announcing that the shift hasn't come. And the field reflects that belief precisely and patiently, over and over again. This is why nothing changes until you do. Not your clothes, not your schedule, not your affirmations. You, the version of you who already lives inside the timeline you dream about. The version of you who doesn't need more to feel complete, who walks differently, who breathes softer, who smiles without reason, who speaks from presence, not performance. That version already exists in potential, but it won't materialize just because you wish for it. It appears when you become it. When you stop performing the frequency of the past and start inhabiting the frequency of your future. And you don't have to be perfect to do this. You just have to be willing to practice, to wake up and ask, what would it feel like to already be there? To walk into your day as if the shift already happened, to treat your life not as a waiting room, but as the sacred stage of embodiment. Because when you stop wanting and start being, the field stops resisting and starts reflecting. Not your fantasies, but your coherence, not your potential, but your presence. Your future isn't something you wait for, it's something you rehearse. Most people think that emotion is just a byproduct of experience. That joy comes when the thing arrives. That peace shows up when life settles down. That gratitude follows results. But in the quantum model, it's exactly the opposite. Emotion is the seed, not the fruit. You don't feel after it happens, you feel so it can happen. Every emotion you practice is a signal to the field, a rehearsal for the timeline you're choosing to inhabit. When you begin to feel the emotion before the evidence, you collapse the distance between where you are and where you're going. You create a shortcut, not through force but through frequency, because in the quantum, the field doesn't wait for confirmation. It responds to embodiment. This is why gratitude works, not as a trick, but as a tuning fork. When you feel grateful in advance, you're not pretending. You're aligning, you're signaling, I'm already in connection with the life I desire. I'm already living it internally, and the field, like a faithful mirror, begins bending to reflect that state. But most people rehearse the wrong things. They wake up rehearsing stress, rehearsing doubt, rehearsing fear, not because they want to, but because it's familiar. The nervous system memorizes emotional patterns, and unless interrupted, it repeats them on autopilot. So you end up reinforcing the very state you're trying to escape. The shift begins when you interrupt that pattern, not with force, not with guilt, but with awareness. You pause, you breathe, you choose one feeling to practice, just one: joy, peace, freedom. Whatever you want to experience out there, you start rehearsing in here. And you let that emotion take root in your body, like a new language you're learning to speak fluently. The more fluent you become, the more fluent the field becomes in responding. Not because you manipulated anything, but because you remembered who you are beyond the habit of suffering. You remembered that emotion is not just reaction, it's creation, it's transmission, it's instruction, it's the invisible script your future follows. And once your system learns that it's safe to feel good for no reason, it stops looking for reasons to feel bad. It stops defending the past. It stops waiting for the world to change, because the world has already changed the moment your state did. Alignment doesn't come from control, it comes from choice. One of the biggest misconceptions about manifestation is that you have to constantly monitor your state, police your thoughts, eliminate every doubt, keep a perfect mindset. But that kind of hypervigilance isn't alignment, it's anxiety dressed as discipline. It's still rooted in fear, and fear can't create what love was designed to attract. You don't need to be perfect to tune your frequency. You just need to be honest. Honest about how you feel, honest about what you're believing in the moment, honest about what you're practicing emotionally. Tuning your frequency is not about pretending you're okay. It's about gently guiding yourself back to the version of you who already is. The key is presence. And presence is not a performance, it's a pause. It's the quiet noticing of your internal landscape without judgment. It's the moment you realize, right now I'm out of sync. And instead of spiraling or forcing a shift, you breathe, you listen, you regulate, you remember. When your body is out of alignment, you don't yell at it, you soothe it, you slow down, you anchor yourself back into rhythm. You put a hand on your chest, you stretch, you walk, you cry if you need to. Because the moment you acknowledge what's happening without trying to fix it, you begin tuning yourself, gently, truthfully, fully. You might not go from fear to joy in one step, but maybe you go from panic to peace, from doubt to curiosity, from tension to stillness. These are frequencies too, and they matter. They create traction, they shift your baseline, and slowly, you begin climbing vibrationally, not by force, but by consistency. Because frequency isn't about faking a smile, it's about choosing a signal that feels real enough to live inside, even for a moment. That moment becomes a seed. That seed becomes a pattern. That pattern becomes your new default. And that default becomes your magnetic signature in the field. You don't need to force a breakthrough. You just need to stop interrupting the flow with self-doubt, guilt, or the pressure to get it all right. You don't need to be high frequency all day. You just need to be coherent enough to be clear. Because clarity, not intensity, is what the universe responds to with the most precision. Your reality bends not when you change your circumstances, but when you change your identity. Most people try to shift their lives from the outside in. They chase new habits, new opportunities, new people, hoping those changes will finally give them the feeling they've been missing. But identity doesn't follow results. Results follow identity. And identity is something you build, intentionally, patiently, moment by moment. Every action you take is a vote for the version of you you're becoming. Every small decision, every emotional response, every unconscious habit, it all casts a ballot, and the field counts every single one. Not to punish you, but to mirror your consistency. Because what you embody the most, you receive the most, not because life is testing you, but because life is matching you. So how do you shift identity without falling into performance or pressure? You begin small. You wake up and ask one simple question. Who am I being today? Not what do I want, not what should I fix, but who am I being? You allow that question to guide your posture, your breath, your energy. You ask yourself before every choice, would the version of me who already has it act like this? If the answer is no, you gently pivot, not out of shame, but out of clarity. Because that's the moment the old self starts to dissolve, not with drama, not with collapse, but with subtle, intelligent shifts that compound over time. You speak differently. You walk with less tension. You respond instead of reacting. You slow down in places where you used to speed up. And slowly, you begin to feel the future timeline merging with the present one. This practice isn't about pretending, it's about remembering that every timeline already exists, and your body is the bridge. That your personality isn't fixed, that your emotional patterns aren't your destiny, that you're not stuck, you're rehearsing, and you can rehearse something new starting right now. Reality is not waiting for a grand gesture. It's responding to who you are in the micro moments. The breath before the decision, the thought before the reaction, the energy you carry between tasks. These are the quiet places where your identity is built. These are the places where the quantum listens the most. The version of you who has already manifested what you desire is not waiting. They are living. And the fastest way to bridge the gap between here and there is to stop waiting and start embodying that version now. Before the email comes, before the call is returned, before the numbers change, before the partner arrives. You walk as if it's already done, not because you're faking it, but because you're choosing to trust that the field doesn't need more convincing. It needs coherence. This is where most people give up. They wait for signs, they wait for certainty. They wait for life to change before they allow themselves to feel different. But manifestation doesn't reward patience. It mirrors alignment. And alignment is emotional, it's physiological, it's spiritual. It's built in the invisible layers of how you show up to your own life. You don't have to be loud about it. You don't need to post about it. You don't need to convince anyone else. Your job is to make the internal shift and let the external take care of itself. And when doubt creeps in, and it will, you return to the practice. Not because it's easy, but because you remember the truth. You don't manifest from need, you manifest from being. This is the final paradox. The moment you let go of needing it so badly, it becomes available. Not because the universe was testing you, but because your grip was blocking the flow. The field is always listening, and when you whisper, "I already am," it rearranges itself around that certainty. So what does it mean to live as the evidence? It means you breathe like someone who already made it. You move like someone who trusts their timing. You speak like someone who doesn't need to prove anything. You create not for results, but from overflow. You walk into every moment not searching, but radiating. You become the sign that others are asking for, the frequency that shifts the room, the reminder that it's safe to trust. And when you live that way long enough, something begins to crystallize, not just in your field, but in your body, in your relationships, in your opportunities. The new timeline takes shape, not as a surprise, but as a match. And you realize you didn't attract it. You aligned with it. You didn't find it. You became it. This isn't about doing more. It's not about fixing, forcing, or chasing anything. It's about remembering. Remembering that the power you've been trying to find already lives in you. That the version of you who feels free, grounded, fulfilled, that version isn't far away. It's simply waiting for permission, not from the world, from you. The field doesn't need more rituals. It doesn't need more effort. It doesn't need perfection. It needs one thing, a signal clear enough to reflect. And that signal is built not in a single moment, but through how you show up to this one. Right now, in the way you breathe, in the way you soften your jaw, in the way you let go of needing to control what was never yours to control. So ask yourself this before you go. What would change if I stopped waiting for my life to shift and started shifting how I live it? What would happen if I embodied ease, if I practiced trust, if I chose peace before the proof? That's your access point. That's your portal. That's your invitation. If this message stirred something in you, if you felt even a flicker of alignment, let it anchor. In the comments, write one word, just one. A word that captures what you're ready to be, not just receive. Let it be your frequency. Let it be your beginning. And if you're ready to go deeper into this space with me, subscribe. This isn't just content, it's a container for transformation, for coherence, for remembrance. The quantum field is always listening. The question is, what are you ready to become, to